Hillshading. Hillshading is a neat little trick we can do with raster files to kind of give it a much more realistic look, some sort of a pseudo 3D, really makes it just come alive a little bit. So pretty easy to do once we have our data in QGIS. So if you've done looked at the slope and the aspect videos, it's very similar. We're going to use our digital terrain model, and we are going to go to raster, analysis, and hillshade. Again, make sure our input layer is set properly. This is the digital terrain model. That's fine. We can set here where the light is coming from. In this case, it's at 315 degrees, and the altitude of the light is coming in at 45 degrees. We can change where the sun is, essentially, and that's going to change the look. Sometimes people will use multiple sets of lights if you really want to get into advanced light shading. You can go pretty deep on this, but in this case, let's just use the defaults, not exaggerate things, just kind of make it look, just dress it up a little bit. You can play around with this a lot, and if you have the time, you can change these settings and see what happens. It happens pretty quickly, so it's good to practice with this. But in this case, we're just gonna use the 315 degree angle and 45 degrees up in the sky, and just going to hit run and then hit close, and this is what we get, right? So this looks like a crazy moonscape, sort of like the aspect and the slope calculations. This is great, but not exactly what we're looking for, right? Let's turn off our DTM, and so now we've got our hillshade layer and our orthophoto underneath it. What I want to do is kind of blend these two things together. Okay, so if you're familiar with Photoshop blending, and you could go deep into pixels and colors and blending things, but in this case, we'll keep it simple and just multiply these two values together. So we're gonna kind of keep the dark values. These are a higher weight, so they're going to come through more, and the lighter stuff is not going to come through, and you'll see what it's going to do. So basically, we're going to play with this hillshade layer. And if you double click and go to symbology in your hillshade layer, you're going to come to your layer properties. Down here, this color rendering, the blending mode, set that to multiply. About halfway down. We could play with these settings, but again, let's just leave it alone, use the defaults. And hit apply and OK, and now we've got some some ripples here, right? Like this really kind of feels a lot more like flat, and it's maybe tough to see at this point, but if I undo that hillshade, that's what we started with. This is what we got to, right? So a little bit darker, a little bit richer. Kind of see this path is kind of dug in a little bit. And you can see those values, and that really kind of gives it more of a 3D lifelike effect, which is going to take your deliverables to the next level, right? So give that a whirl, the hillshade, and if you wanted to dial those up and exaggerate that, you could darken those things up a little bit. Like I said, play with those values if you want, but the default levels are really pretty good. So just starting out, I would just stick with them. So go ahead, dress it up with some hillshades.